Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
Back in the studio. Actually, back in the studio. This has been a long time.
It has, yeah.
And to have one of my most favorite people in the studio with me.
Thank you.
All the way from Texas.
All the way from Texas, especially for you, Bob.
Yes. Sarah Fleshner's in the studio. Welcome to the show once again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I always love doing this with you.
A lot of things have taken place since the last conversation we had.
Yeah.
Which was probably in our old studio, about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, at least.
And so since then, business has changed. We've all learned to adjust with the pandemic that's going on. My first question is, how are things in the big world of Texas music? You guys surviving? You making it?
We are, yeah. You know, we opened up, I feel like, almost before anybody else. So I feel like a lot of the tours and things were tested on what we were doing. And so we got back on the road pretty quickly. And I would say most acts are booked through the end of the year, which is pretty incredible. I didn't foresee it coming back that quickly. So
let's back up a little bit, because some people who have listened to the show know what you have done and what you have accomplished. Others, we have new listeners all the time. Let's go to day one. How did you get in this business? You were working with your sister.
I was, yeah.
What was your motivation to do this?
Yeah, so the first time I actually ever got into the studio, my sister and I were recording a little makeshift album for my grandmother who had Alzheimer's, and I played piano and she sang, and she loved to hear both of us do that, and it was the one thing that would kind of calm her down. And so we made that for her for Christmas. And the producer, who was actually it was a closet studio, is the tiniest little thing. He knew that I was kind of into computers and knew a little bit about sound, but not really. And so he invited me to come sit behind the soundboard. I was there for maybe a minute, and my world just opened up. And I had a moment where I knew it was exactly what I wanted to do. And it was one of those moments where finally, for the first time, I could hear in my head, I could make it happen on the screen. And I had never understood that before. So it was a pretty incredible moment. And that's what motivated me to get into it.
It's kind of one of those, I guess, what I call an aha moment. When I was 13 years old, I went to a Santana concert, and everybody's there, and it's just all this great music. And I'm the guy watching the roadies run across the stage and the lights on the lighting console and the sound console. And I wanted to figure out how to make that all work. Was that you?
Yeah, very much so. Well, I grew up going to the Houston Rodeo. That was one of the biggest events for me. And so as a little girl, I remember watching these huge acts, and everybody else was watching the performer on stage, and I was watching the stagehands run around figuring out what they were doing, and just knowing that I wanted to be a part of that.
Did you have any professional training? I mean, did you become a stagehand at some point, or was this all kind of baptism by fire for you? I mean, a lot of people who want to get into the business, not everybody, but a lot, go to college or high school or college and get into the theater arts program and learn about the behind the scenes. Did you have any of that, or did you just kind of stick both feet in the water and go?
I've always been kind of an all or nothing type of person. And so it was no different with the music industry. I didn't go to college. I didn't have any formal training, but I did have some really incredible people that took a chance on me and taught me what I know. And so if it hadn't been for them, I don't know if it would have been as easy as it was. Not that anything's ever easy, but it definitely made it better. So having that group of people was great.
You're now heading into a new path. Last time we had you on, we had you with Chuck Thompson, who's another artist manager, and you yourself as an artist manager. But now you're venturing into a whole new world, which is concert promotion and concert production.
Yeah.
Is this something you've also dreamed of? Or once again, is this something that just, yes, I can do this and let's figure out how to make it happen?
Yeah, it's not ever something. I've always wanted to own a venue someday. That's always been something that has been an end goal, but never did I see myself producing other people's concerts. But I think it's one of those things that in the industry, you say yes before you're ready. And so they came to me and they needed help, and I said yes. And before I realized what I had done, I'm promoting a concert. So that's just all part of it.
Running a venue, and I can speak from personal experience. It's heartbreaking. It's gut wrenching. It'll financially ruin you on a good day.
Yeah.
But with you're working kind of in a different world because a lot of people don't know this, especially overseas. But even here in the United States, the Texas market is really a country within itself.
It is, yeah.
You have Texas artists that can be million sellers, platinum recording artists who almost never venture out of the Texas market.
Oh, yeah.
And can make a very sustainable career playing within that region. When my wife and I were in Texas last month, in fact, visiting you and your folks for a few days, and it was just, it's like Texas never ends. It's so big.
It is, yeah.
But it's also a very eclectic, unique market in that it's, and we talked about this on the phone last week, it's kind of a cross-pollination between Americana and the Texas music scene. They both kind of run together.
They do,
Does that seem to be more popular or more sustainable in the Texas market than maybe the rest of the nation? Or maybe you don't know the answer to that. I don't know.
I've worked so long in the Texas scene, but have also ventured out into Nashville. I think what I love about Texas music scene is whatever music you put out there, whatever music you feel is acceptable.
Right.
And so it doesn't have to be a genre. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. It's just good music. And that's what I really love, is just good music. And so I don't know if that works in the rest of the country, but it works really well in Texas.
I think people like good music and they like live entertainment. And obviously with everything that's gone in for coming up on a year and a half, and as you said, the Texas market is starting to get back into it. And I think other parts of the country are. Obviously California is still fairly locked down, as are some other states. But Tennessee, for one, we're starting to see live entertainment on a large scale.
Yes.
I just saw where an artist over the weekend played in front of 30,000 people at an outdoor festival. And I thought, okay, this is great. We're kind of getting back into that mindset that it's okay to be in front of a large audience, and we're all going to survive. We're not going to turn into flesh-eating zombies or whatever.
Very true.
But with what you're venturing into the live music scene, are you seeing larger shows that you're personally working on? Are they outdoor? Are they indoor? What's kind of the genetic makeup of these productions that you're starting to venture into?
Yeah, so these are larger scale, mostly outdoors, mainly because it's just easier to have a lot of people outdoors. I don't think it necessarily has anything to do with, the pandemic or anything that's happened. But I think what I have seen from the pandemic is there was always large scale concerts in Texas. But what I've seen is the kind of rise again of these more intimate shows, of people bringing an experience into this, where you come in and you can meet the artist and you sit down and you may even have a conversation with them, and you get dinner with your meal, and it's a dinner show type of thing, which is what I really love. I think we've lacked that a little bit in Texas, and so I'm excited to see that come back.
Do you think it's a little bit of an education process that's taking place with that Texas market, a dinner and a show? I know that if you go to Billy Bob's, which is world famous honky tonk in Fort Worth, Texas, in the stockyards, it's kind of got that dinner show vibe. You can order food and drink beer and watch it. And of course, here in Nashville, with the honky tonks or some of the smaller venues, you can have that experience outside of the arenas, which for me personally is some of the most uncomfortable seating in the world anyway.
It really
they're
is.
just trying to cram bodies in there.
Yeah.
Do you see the concert experience, because that's what we're talking about, do you see it being any different than it was? Or do you think we're all going to kind of follow the same template, the same cookie cutter, and get back into the groove? Or are we going to try new things?
I think it's almost impossible to go back to what we were. We know so much more now. And I think taking a year off of music, I think we've all learned to appreciate it again. And we're being more thoughtful about the things that we're doing. Especially in the Texas scene, we missed live music. One of my favorite parts of a show, I run live sound. One of my favorite parts of the show is kind of the countdown into the person coming on stage and the lights coming on. And it's like 1, 2, 3, go. And then you just see the room explode in energy. It's one of my favorite parts, and I've missed that so much that I'm more thoughtful about how I do that now and appreciating that, and I think the crowd appreciates it more. So it's going to be a different vibe, and I'm kind of excited for that.
We're going to take a break, get a word in for one of our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to have some more of this conversation with the ever-fascinating Sarah Fleshner.
Thank you.
You're listening to the business side of music.
When you have a Korg synth at your fingertips, the possibilities are endless. Be it digital, analog modeling, altered FM, wave sequencing, or the multi-engine synth, Korg gives you easy access to a variety of features to help you get the perfect sounds quickly. Whether you're a professional musician or just starting out, Korg truly has a synthesizer to help you express yourself. Visit Korg.com or your favorite Korg dealer to get your hands on one of their products to create new music always. Korg, the official sponsor of the business side of music.
Hi everyone, I'm Larry Butler, and I want to send you a free digital copy of my new book, The Singer-Songwriter Rulebook, 101 Ways to Help You Improve Your Chances of Success. That's right, everything you need to know to launch your career as a singer-songwriter, all based on my 40 years in the live performance arena, and believe me, I've seen it all. In my book, you'll find the 10 things you have to deal with before even thinking about becoming a singer-songwriter performer. You'll also learn about the 5 things every singer-songwriter can do this weekend to make their live show better. 5 things I can guarantee that you are not doing already. Plus, there's tips on songwriting and staging, photo and video shoots, publishing, merch, dozens of other topics. All written for people who don't particularly like to read. And again, it's free. Just go to the Business Side of Music website homepage and look for my book cover. Click on it, and a free digital copy of my book will be yours. I'm Larry Butler, and I approve of this message.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back in the studio, Sarah Fleshner with 362 Entertainment's with us. We need to give a shout out to the 362 folks because it's a great production company. They're venturing into new arenas of the world, so to speak. Getting back to the live concert music scene, as a consumer, we go to the show, we get in our seats, we have our popcorn and our soda or our wine or our beer, and we wait for the lights to go out, as you were talking about, kind of that 1, 2, 3 process. But there's so much more that goes on before that.
There's a lot.
And you've been finding that out as you put these shows on, because you've actually been trying to negotiate a couple deals on some of these upcoming concerts. How's that experience been for you?
I would say it's a whole different realm for me. It's not what I'm used to. I'm normally on the band side, negotiating from, representing the act. And so to represent the venue or the festival or whatever it may be that I'm working on that day is definitely, it's been a learning curve. I have to say I love that part of it. I've found a new appreciation for anybody that can do it, because there are days it's very stressful, but it's a lot of fun. And if you think about the end process of somebody having that experience at a show, it kind of makes it worth it.
You've had some things come up too that I don't think any of us foresaw when things started to lift again, and that is finding available acts on dates.
Yes.
That's been a bit of a challenge for you, hasn't it?
It has.
Yeah.
What I figured out is that, and I don't know why I didn't think of this before, I guess because I've always represented from the act side, is that these people had, these festivals and things like that, they got canceled in 2020, but they still scheduled them for 2021, knowing that they may have to cancel them, but they had already booked the acts. And so although when you go on these acts websites, it may look like they're completely open, they're promised to certain festivals if the restrictions are lifted enough that you can have that festival. And that's one thing I did not count on. So it's been a challenge for sure. We nailed down one that I'm really happy about. It was one of the top on our list, so I'm excited, but it was a process.
And it's also, you're now finding new venues.
Yes.
That maybe didn't exist before. Because once again, it's that hunger for live music that people haven't been able to experience for over a year. With the new venues, there's obviously production challenges going on there. You and I were talking on the phone a week or so ago about one where the gentleman wants to do a series of shows, and there's nothing. It's just ground.
Yeah.
How do you go into that and, without scratching your head going, how do I figure this out? Is there a system in place, or is this, once again, kind of, you're not having a cookie cutter template? You're kind of having to build from the ground up.
Yeah, so there is no template that I have, at least. I know other people do. So it's definitely from the ground up. And I just try and take my experience of working with bands, as far as for one of them, we're building a stage. And I'm in charge of figuring out what that looks like instead of bringing in a mobile stage. And so I just try and think of, okay, out of all of the years I've been working with bands, what would a band need? I want, when the bands come in, I want them to have a good experience as much as I want the crowd to have a good experience. So it's just trying to pull from the knowledge that I have and then calling people like you and anybody else that is willing to answer my million questions that there is at times.
Because that's it. It's a million questions going into these things. And then as I have found out over the years, it's not only a million questions, it's a million and one, because you have that moment of, we got to figure out how to do this.
Yeah.
Are you finding the same thing?
There's an endless to-do list, and I am in the business of answering questions these days. That's all I do, is just answer people's questions. And it's great. I love it, but it's definitely a turn from what I've done in the past.
Do you think people, and I don't mean this to be a loaded question, so I'm not approaching it from that direction, so don't take it that way. But do you think people are ready to get back into seeing live shows? And let me preface that by saying, there's still a certain faction out there that is going to wear the mask. They're not going to take it off. They want to keep the social distancing. Do we have enough people that have moved beyond from that? And I'm sure I'll hear from somebody, what do you mean moved beyond? But do we have enough people that are comfortable? Maybe I should say it that way. Do we have enough people comfortable to get back into that kind of shoulder-to-shoulder atmosphere? Because let's face it, what they've tried to accomplish by social distancing in shows has not worked.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. There's been no template that has worked well enough to say, okay, this can stick around. So we're going to have to move back into what we did before. There's just really no option. There's no other way to do it, unfortunately. But I do think we have enough of a crowd, at least speaking for the Texas market.
Right.
I do think we have enough of a crowd. I've gone out to every concert that there has been within 2 or 3 hours of my house every weekend since everything opened back up. And they're sold out, and there's people everywhere. They're just hungry for live music. I think people forget how much of a part of their lives it is.
And your comfort level's okay in that environment?
It is. I'm comfortable. As far as I know, we've had no complaints. But, we try and be respectful of everybody, and have maybe a small section that if someone wants to social distance and there's a group of people, that they have a spot that they can stand and they can watch live music. And it kind of offers both, just to try and be respectful of everybody's opinions there.
We haven't thought about that in the past, have we?
And we have not. That's a new thing.
Yeah. Maybe I should say this. I think some things have worked in a certain environment. We've had some people on the show. We had one guest on the show, in fact, who did drive-in concerts, which over in Europe seem to work really well. I think they may have a system better in place than we do here. I know that there have been some drive-in concerts here. I don't know to what success they've been, how consistent they've been. But with that all being said, it's still that physical touch, not listening to your stereo in your car, tuned into a certain frequency, because that's how they're broadcasting the music.
Right.
You kind of want to feel that thump and hear the bass, and
you can't replace that.
And that can't be emulated. Yeah.
You can't replace that. And I think that's what people are hungry for. And so we'll see. I mean, as you know, with any concert, there's risks involved. There's no way you can guarantee that there's going to be a certain number of people there. All you can do is set it up the best way you can. You advertise, and you market the act, and you get the act that's going to bring people in, and you do everything that you can, and you hope that it turns out well. So I think that's the best we can do at this point.
With the conversation that we've had regarding, it's somewhat of a challenge finding acts right now, at least finding the acts that we want. Do you think that the artist is knowing that they're in demand and their price is reflecting it, or is everybody just hungry and wanting to get back on the road and let's make this happen no matter what?
Yeah. Nobody has raised their prices or anything like that, which I've kind of been surprised by because we all lost so much in the last year. But it's more just hungry to get it done. Let's book shows and let's get them on the books and let's try and make routing make sense. And if we can't, we'll just do it anyways. We're ready to play.
Do you think the artist is ready to get back out on the road? I mean, there's obviously a lot of prep time for them.
Yeah.
Is the artist prepared to get back out on the road? They've been shut down for a year and a half almost. Do you think they're at a mindset that, all right, let's go out and do this? Yes, they want to do the best show they can. Mm-hmm. Do you think with the artists that you've spoken with, are they ready to put on the best show that they can?
Yeah, there's kind of been a separation. There's been the ones that very much took the pandemic off and they relaxed with their families, which I'm in support of, obviously. But they didn't do much to prepare to go back onto the road. And then there's the artists that they made albums and they, worked on their vocals and they worked on their stage presence and all of these things. And they're coming back better than they've ever been. And so I think it's more of a mindset with the artist, but it's been about 50-50 from what I understand.
And it's an appreciation. You lose something like this, you start to appreciate it a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I think you miss, like you said, you can't replicate the thump in your chest when the bass goes on the stage, and you can't replicate, everybody screaming, and there's a feel of a concert that you can't replicate, and that I have missed more than I ever thought I would in the last year.
We have a whole new generation out there of young people who didn't get to graduate from high school, or maybe I should say didn't get the graduation ceremony,
right?
Or the college kids that didn't get the graduation ceremony, who maybe as they were coming into their own, possibly never experienced that live show, that real authentic concert. Do you think we'll be able, as an industry, to get them to start attending concerts now? Because it's really been kind of a weird world for them.
Yeah, it has. I feel bad for that generation that's had to go through this and that they missed all of these big milestones that the rest of us got. But I would say if we can get them there, they're going to have an experience that none of us got. And that is, it's going to be electric. And so the energy is going to be insane compared to what we've always dealt with, because they're just so ready. They're getting a concert experience that's just never happened before. So if we can get them there, they'll be as hooked as the rest of us.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
We're going to take another break, get another word in for another one of our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to have some more conversation with this wonderful lady, Sarah Fleshner.
Love it.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Whether you consider yourself a musician or not, music is all around us, and it affects our everyday lives. Whether it's background music influencing our shopping habits in a store, organ music adding the vibe to a baseball game, or a playlist convincing us to keep going on that last mile of a run. I'm Mindy Peterson, host of the podcast Enhance Life with Music, where we take a holistic look at music's benefits through the lens of science and medicine, entertainment, and business. You can find me and Enhance Life with Music at mpetersonmusic.com/podcast or wherever you get your audio.
Since 1963, Korg has been creating new experiences in music and performance. That is what drove the creation of some of Korg's most legendary products, such as the Poly 6, the M1, the Electribe, the Triton, the Minilog, the Kronos, Wave State, Op6, and most recently the Nautilus, which is what we have here in our studio. Korg is dedicated to creating new, innovative, and uncompromising instruments which maintain the highest quality to inspire music makers, past, present, and future. Visit Korg.com or your favorite Korg dealer to get your hands on one of their products and start creating new music always. Korg, the official sponsor of the business side of music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back in the studio, Sarah Fleshner, 362 Entertainment from Texas, is with us today. You bring a perspective to the show that I don't, because you're a much younger generation than myself. Mm-hmm. The challenges that people such as myself or Tom Sabella, my partner, faced in producing shows years ago are different now. Mm-hmm. obviously, I remember we used to be able to get acts for a lot less money, the same acts for a lot less money than they're charging these days.
Oh, yeah.
That's happened really probably within the last 10 years or so. Do you foresee a challenge of that virtual world we talked about a little bit during the break? You've got these kids that graduated from high school and college and maybe never really set foot outside and into this magical world of live music.
Right.
Do you think that there's going to be a bit of an education process? We talk about we want to get them out there.
Yeah.
They'll experience it unlike anything else they've ever experienced. Is there an education process? And if there is, what is that we need to do to let these people know this is what it's all about? Because they've been living in a virtual world for a year and a half now.
Yeah. I've seen things like just this last weekend, they basically had, I don't know the exact name of it, but it was turn your phone off for 24 hours. No social media, no texting, no calling.
Holy
nothing.
cow. How in the heck could you do that? That's tough for me.
It is. It's very difficult. But I think that's going to be the gateway into just kind of getting people back into reality and back into the physical world at times, especially, like you said, this generation that's grown up in a virtual world. I think that's going to be the only way that we do it, because they've gotten the virtual music experience and they've gotten all of that. And yes, they love it, but until you get that real taste of a live show, of a live concert, you don't understand.
You brought up something that to me is an intriguing question, and that is the virtual concert that so many artists have done. And I remember when the pandemic first hit, everybody was real excited because, I can still see so-and-so, and they're going to be on Facebook or whatever platform, and, it'd be a Thursday evening at 6 o'clock, and it just wasn't there.
Yeah.
It did get better.
It did.
We started to see professional camera shoots. We started to see professional staging and lighting. And we turned it in from a living room couch concert into an actual live performance.
Right.
Okay. Will those continue to take place? Is the live concert going to replace those entirely? Or do you think now we have two parallel performance platforms running down?
I think for a little while it's going to be parallel, personally, because you've still got those people that, can't go out and be in crowds because of their health or whatever it may be. And so, although COVID was the reason, we started to service this entire group of people that physically cannot go to a concert, not necessarily just because of COVID. So I think that's a really neat thing for them to be able to have. So I think it will always exist. It's going to run parallel for a little while, and then I see it starting to fall off a little bit. It's just not the same experience.
We just have to figure out a way to educate these people. The tools are out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, every generation in music has had its great challenge, and it's been overcome every time. And so for my generation of music industry professionals, this is our great challenge, and we will overcome it. We'll figure it out, and we'll move on, and there'll be another challenge, and that's our job, is to fix things.
Let's go in another direction right now. Management. You've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
You have a couple artists that you're representing at this point.
I do.
How did you get into that? Because that's a whole different world from what we've been talking about. Managing artists, is that something that you consider doing? I mean, were you doing that with your sister at one time?
Yes.
And you stuck with it?
Yeah. So I was in studio production and live sound until I was 18. My sister had
Until you were 18?
Yes.
A lot of us don't even get into it until we're 18. Man, I'm old.
I was an early bloomer.
Yeah.
But yeah, until I was 18. And then that's when I kind of fully dove into the music industry. I had graduated high school, decided not to go off to college. My sister was playing shows, and there was more and more opportunities that needed to be negotiated and needed to be, general business needed to be worked on. And so I said, well, I'll do it.
How did you figure that all out?
Google. No, I mean, my mom actually, she did it for a long time. From the time I was 13 till I was 18, so 5 years, she did the booking. But
your mom had no experience in it either.
But she's Superwoman and can run anything.
Yeah.
So
yes, she is.
she can get it done. And so she had kind of already built this really great platform that she handed off to me, because she didn't want to do it long term. She did it to help her daughters and help us pursue our dreams, which I can never thank her enough for. But she gave me this platform when I was 18 and said, okay, you want to be in the music industry, here it is. I think their real goal, both of my parents, was to make us hate the music industry. When I told them I wanted to do that at 13, they were not happy.
Didn't work, did it?
No, they made me love it even more without even knowing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just kind of like jump into it and figure it out as we go.
So let's talk about managing artists other than your sister, which probably from conversations I've had with you was one of the most difficult clients you've ever had.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Working with family is always difficult, and there's just, sisters have their issues.
Yeah, and it's kind of like family, then friends, and then strangers.
Yes.
That's the level of difficulty decreases.
Yep.
As you've delved into the management world, and like I said, you're working with a couple artists, how are you finding challenges there? Are you finding challenges, and what are they?
Yeah, I think the virtual world is still a consistent challenge when it comes to management, because there's always a new platform to pop up, and you don't have to be active on every platform, but you have to be present on all of them.
So how do you do that if you're not active but you're present?
Yeah. So basically what I try and do is every platform for my artist, every platform there is that supports musicians and music, and so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, there's a presence there. There's the profile picture, there's the bio, and there's a link to the website. So if somebody gets on TikTok, to say, and they search Mark Jones music, there will be an account that pops up. And it may take you, there may not be a lot on there, and it may take you over to his Instagram or his Facebook or one that we're more active on, but there is something there to direct them to wherever we want them to go. And to me, we're still building that, we're still working on that, but it's the best way I've known to handle it until this point.
Social media, obviously, when I started in the business, we didn't have it, and it's there now. At one point, we had MySpace, and everybody thought that was the hot commodity, and then it was
MySpace
Facebook.
Was great.
Wish it was still around. But how many different platforms do you think there are now that you can actively make a presence? Not without actively, stirring that pot every day, but have a presence. How many different platforms do you think there are now?
Oh, gosh. You've got Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and YouTube and Twitch. That's a new one that I'm learning about. It's still a foreign concept to me. I would say like at least 10 to 15 of just your basic ones.
Yeah, along with your website.
Yeah, the website, that's social media. I got some really great advice from a girl named Jamie New. She owns Smartest U University. And she said, do not advertise too much on rented space. And when I asked her what that meant, she said, basically, Facebook and Instagram and all of those things, those are rented space. You don't own that. And at any moment, it could go away. And then where are your customers? And so those things are simply used as a tool to get them to a website or an email list or somewhere that you own and you have complete control over that, and you have your fans' contact information. So we try and use social media as a funnel for that. And that way, if something ever happens to Facebook or Instagram, we know how volatile these things are.
And we've seen it happen. Parler went away for a while.
Exactly. We don't lose our customers.
Yeah. And you brought up something that I think is so vitally important, and that's that email list.
It is so important.
We can't overlook that because those names are worth their weight in gold, literally.
They really are. Well, it's your direct contact to your fan. It's one of the only things, social media is getting better about it, but it's one of the only things other than a concert where you can contact them directly. And that's huge.
Do you think it's getting overused, the email list? I know on my end, I looked at my email over the weekend, and I'm just going to hit delete on a lot of these without even reading them. Is there a way to get around that, or has it just become a nuisance of sorts?
I feel like there are some companies that overuse it. It's just too much. I get 4 and 5 emails a day. I'm deleting half of those, I promise.
Yeah.
I think it comes with everything you do being very genuine. And if you come across less marketing, less commercial, more genuine, hey, I really wanted to tell you about this because I think you're going to like it. If you really know your audience, I think that helps.
Does personalizing help?
I think so.
Instead of hey you, it's hey Sarah or hey Bob.
Yeah, absolutely. That subject line, for me at least, I don't know if this is an industry thing, but for me, the subject line having my name in it is huge. I'll open it every time. And I don't know why. Half of them are marketing emails, but I open them. It makes a difference.
Well, and I know from our podcast perspective, when we choose the title of a show, it's vitally important that we know what that title is going to be because we want to entice our listeners to tune in and turn on. Do you think that, and I've asked this question before to other people, do you think there are platforms out there that eventually this industry will succeed to because that, and I'm not picking at one, but let's just say, for example, because Facebook runs its course, do you think is there a platform out there on the horizon that you're seeing or do you think will be coming that might be, we talked about it, the next MySpace, because MySpace was really cool for those of us that lived in that world. Do you think there's another MySpace on the horizon for the music people?
Yeah, we saw the rise of TikTok this last year, which I was not for at first, just because it's just another social media for me to download on my phone. But I'm a big fan of it. So we saw the rise of that. I think there'll be, I don't know what it is, I don't know the name of it, but there will be something coming after that because TikTok has spiked. It's going to start coming back down now. We're going to need something else like it. So I assume that if we have another one, it's going to be similar to short form video type of things.
What about something like Instagram? I had an Instagram account for quite a while, and all of a sudden I'm finding out people more than ever are asking me, are you on Instagram? What's driving that all of a sudden?
Yeah, I think I almost see it as like a virtual business card. Like it's the way to see a quick snapshot of somebody and what they've done, their accomplishments, who follows them. It's kind of insane, but that's how it works, is who follows them. It gives you clout. It's kind of your resume almost. How many followers do you have? What is your engagement? And it's a quick way for me to get a rundown of where they're at in their career.
And that's important for the artist.
Yeah, it's very important. Yeah. And I think I land a little, I'm kind of old school. I still carry a paper calendar, so I don't know if I'm the best person to talk about this, but I think you should be more about your fans and engaging with your fans and using it. I don't care about the numbers. I don't care about the followers. I don't care about anything. I care about, do these people know where my artists are? Are they listening to their music? Do they understand what we're trying to say with this artist? If you get all of that and you're connecting with the songs, I don't care how many followers we have.
Question we always ask every guest on the show: how can people find you?
Yes. So I have at Sarah Fleshner is my Instagram. And then we have a 362 Entertainment Instagram.
And those are the numbers 362.
Yes, 362.
Yeah, don't feel like you have to write it out.
Nope, just the numbers. And then our website is 362entertainment.com. Also the numbers.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I always love it.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound designed by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Fuson.
Never had one lesson.
You're out. Finished. Expelled.
This tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.